Hey, what's up people? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Desmond Z. If this is the first time you've ever seen me. So, it's the end of the month. You know what time it is. It's time to wrap these things up. Wrap these things up? Wrap this thing up. And talk about the books that I read for the month of August. This actually turned out to be a good reading month for me. Like, dare I say the best all year? Dare I say? I think I dare. This was a 5-star read for me. This was a 5-star read for your boy. So, the Rachel incident is about Rachel, who is looking back on her life. In present time, she is like 32, 33, and she works, what does she work? She works in publishing. No, she's like a journalist, a reporter of some sort, and she's looking back on like her last year of college, like really just coming into adulthood and all the things that went on at the ages of like 21, 22, right? So Rachel, at the age of 21, 22, she's working in this bookstore. She's in her last year of college, majored in English. She meets this guy named James. James is gay, and they quickly become like real close friends or whatever. James is really outgoing. Rachel has a crush on one of her professors, right? And he comes into the bookstore and he's like, I have a book coming out. I'm just checking to see, like, is anybody pre-ordering it? Like, is this gonna be a hit? Is this gonna be a miss? What's going on? Like, kind of type of thing. You know, he's just trying to see what's up with his little book. Turns out, you know, she got a little crush on him, like I said. He ain't looking at Rach. He looking at James. Him and James start this little love affair because the professor is married, okay? The professor got a wife at home. But him and James start this little love affair, and Rachel gets stuck in the middle. Her new best friend, the professor she got a crush on, they together, and she just like, well, damn, you know? But then she starts seeing this other guy named Carrie, and they start a relationship, and we just go through a whirlwind of James and the professor being together, Rachel and Carrie like having this back and forth situationship type of thing, and then you got, you know, her being stuck in the middle of James and the professor, because like that's her professor and this is her best friend, and it's this whole thing. And it was such a good story about like young adulthood, coming into your own, and like friendship and love. The humor was really good. Like I laughed quite a bit, and I was fully invested, and I didn't anticipate liking this as much as I did. This is really one of those sleeper hits where it just like surprised me, and I was like, well, damn, I did not like. And I also listened to it on audio, and I think that made it a lot better as well, because the author is Irish, and hearing like the dialect straight from like an Irish person, and hearing like the, you know, the accent and the slang and the stuff like that, it helps it so much. It helps so much more. And then he sang a lullaby. I believe this is set in Nigeria. August is a God-fearing track star who leaves Enugu City, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, to attend university and escape his overbearing sisters. So I think when he leaves that city, he's in Nigeria, because the author is Nigerian. But that doesn't mean like the book is set in Nigeria. It doesn't have to be. But anywho, we have our two main characters. August, who has 3 older sisters, and his mother passed when he was born, and he was raised by his dad, but mostly his sisters, because his dad blames him for his mother's death. So him and his dad, they really don't have a relationship. It's just they were there physically in the same household, but there's like no emotional attachment outside of like the trauma of him blaming his child for being born. And then we have Segon, who is an only child raised by his mom and dad, and he's openly gay, and he's been hurt in his past, you know, loved and lost at a very young age. And then August is more closeted, and like, when I say more closeted, August is closeted and just like hides who he is from the world, from his family, all of that. For the first half of the book, we are seeing them live 2 separate lives, like high school and coming of age and dealing with their families separately in 2 different timelines. And then they come together later in the book when they go to college and they meet and start a relationship. And you've got one who's, like I said, is openly gay, one is in the closet, and Segon is like, I've been there, I've done that, I've hidden, like I've had to hide who I am from the world long enough, and I just don't want to do that anymore and don't want to be hurt. And then August is like, but I love you and I care for you and I want to be with you and da 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 da. Just give me some time, blase, blase, blase. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to, oh, would I date you if you're in the closet or not, type of thing. So you deal with that struggle between these two main characters. And this is not a happy book in any way. I should just say that. There were moments of joy, yes, but it was like every time something good happened, it was something tragic. It was some tragic sneaking up behind them. It was sneaking up behind them. It was coming. It was on their heels. And I was just like, oh my God, like when do we let up? So I enjoyed this book. I was a little misled because I assumed that we would just, I won't say immediately start with them like knowing each other or meeting, but I thought they would come together, not even just as a couple, but as characters. They would meet much sooner in the book. But we go through like a good chunk of the book before they're even on the page together, like, you know. So I was a little bit misled by that, and it kind of like put me off a little bit from the book. Overall, I did enjoy this book. I gave it 4 stars in the end, and I read that this author wrote his book like by like just typing it on the phone because he didn't have a computer or internet. I could be making it up. I read that, but you can't believe everything you read. But if that's true, kudos to you because you deserve it. Sherry LaPina, everyone here is lying. I am quite a fan of Sherry LaPina's work. I read Not a Happy Family last year. I talked about how the characters in that book pissed me off so much that they made me laugh, and I enjoyed the book. I read Not a Happy Family, and it's 2 other ones. Someone We Know, and is it the Next Door Neighbor somewhere? I can't remember the other one, but I've read like 3 of her books, and 4 including this one now. And this one it's like 3 stars. It let me down. This was one of the weaker ones that I read this month. So this man William, he's having an affair, and we started him with this at this hotel with his mistress or whatever, and she's like, I gotta end this. This is over. I gotta go back home to my husband and my son and my children and all that. This is over, William. I'm done with you, boy. And you know, he's upset. He goes home, and his daughter, his little 9-year-old daughter, is there. He's like, what the hell you doing here, girl? Why you ain't at school? Why you ain't doing your ABCs 1, 2, 3s? And so they have like words, you know, that he's going back and forth, you know, a little argument with his child, you know, and she's like, no, daddy, da 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 da. And he slaps her. He hits her. He put his hands on her. And Avery, the daughter, she's written to be like someone that, you know, they would say, oh, she's too grown, you know, she's too like she running off at the mouth. She got a little smart mouth. She goes missing, and the last person to see her was her daddy, who hit her because she was talking back, and he was pissed off because his side piece had just left him. Okay, and now the police are involved, and it's like the title say, everyone here is lying. Somebody is hiding something. The daddy's hiding something. The mama is hiding something. The mistress is hiding something. Her husband hiding something. Her son hiding something. Everybody is lying, and we don't know what's going on. And it's like, why are we doing this? It was like, I don't care about any of this. Everybody here is dumb. That should have been the title. Everyone here is dumb. Everyone here is dumb. It had the opposite effect on me from Not a Happy Family, where those dumb people like made me laugh and they were just goofy, to this point where everyone here was dumb and they pissed me off. And once I find out what exactly was going on, the plot twist and all that, I was just like, okay. An ordinary wonder. An ordinary wonder. We're just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go. Otto was born an intersex child who has both reproductive organs, and in Otto's mind, in Otto's heart, in Otto's soul, Otto knows that they are not a boy, they are a girl. But the world is cruel, and the world refuses to acknowledge that, right? So Otto's parents are horrible people. Horrible people. The daddy done ran off and got another woman, and he ain't never at home. He got his money and he leave them at home and say, look, I pay the bills. and I'll get y'all some food, but just leave me alone. Okay, he's not even physically present, he's not emotionally present. He just like, okay, just leave me alone. The mom pretty much hates Otto because Otto refuses to conform and be what she believes Otto should be. And the story is told in from two different timelines. One when Otto is 14 and the other one, I believe Otto is like 12. And then as time goes on, they kind of catch up to each other. That did kind of throw me off a little bit in the beginning. It took me a while to get used to the whole flipping back and forth, because for me, the stronger part of the story was in the present day when Otto was 14 and getting older, going through 14, 15, 16. So going back to the time when they were like 12, it kind of threw me off a little bit at first in the beginning. And then towards the end of the book, I felt like we should have just ended a little bit sooner because we started going round and round in circles. Overall, in the end, I really enjoyed this. Also, there's so many like proverbs and stuff that are dropped into this one. Ever since I read this book, like trust God, but tie your good. If you sell eggs, you should not start a fight in the market. Like it has been stuck in my head since I have finished this book. I don't know if I did such a good job of explaining this, but you just need to read this book. You need to read this book, and I would highly recommend you listen to it on audio while reading this. I know I say that a lot, but it just makes such a difference. It makes such a difference. 4.5 stars. The Spectacular. This is about a 19-year-old woman named Marion Brooks, who lives with her older sister and her father. It is set in 1956, and she is a dance instructor, but her dream is to be like a dancer herself. But her dad is very strict, and he's like, no, you need to do something stable, be an accountant, be a lawyer, do something like that. And her mother is no longer with them, so she just lives with, like I said, she lives with her sister and her dad. At some point, she's like, you know what, I gotta do what's best for me. I gotta do what's best for me. And she decides to audition and become a rockette. She gets the job and she becomes a rockette. And now there is the Big Apple bomber who has been terrorizing the citizens of New York City for 16 years by planting bombs in popular crowded spaces. Somehow, Marion gets involved with this whole like case trial, trying to track down this this terrorist man. And then you have the Peter guy, I almost said Peter Griffin. And then you have the Peter Griggs guy who's also on the case, and then they start coming together. There's a little romance, a little flicky of the flame for them. And overall, I think I gave this book like 4 stars. I enjoyed this as well. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. This is one where I was reading and I was like, oh damn, like I'm really into this. Like I didn't even realize like how deep I had gotten into the story, and I've been enjoying it. The last one left. Kit goes to this little house, right? That's sitting, not little house. Goes to this house that's sitting on like rocks in the middle, like pretty much of the ocean or somewhere, like at the edge of a cliff is where this house is at. And she goes here to be a home aide for this old lady in her 70s named Lenora, who is infamous for being accused of killing her entire family, right? We had got like 3 or 4 hours into the audio of this book, and I looked down and just to see how far I had gotten, I was like, ain't nothing happened. Ain't nothing happened. We 4 hours in this thing and ain't nothing happened. What are we doing? What are we doing? When is it gonna pick up? I don't understand the need for it to be so much yippity yapping and ain't nothing happening. It was just a lot of talking at first, and then I kind of got into the story and like the twists and the turns. I saw where some things were going, and as I always say, I'll continue to say, I don't mind being right, I enjoy it. But then we got to the end, and as things started unfolding, and I was just like, okay. I was just like, I don't know. I know quite a few people I've seen say they enjoyed this book. It was not for me. It was just okay. It was cool. It wasn't like a horrible book by any means. The other man is a man's world. But it wouldn't be nothing This is a paperback, and you know I had to have some faith in this book, had to have enjoyed this book at some level. If you see me in here with a paperback and it wasn't gifted to me, because I'm a hardcover type of boy. Like, make it in hardcover. Rich, handsome, and connected. He's a catch for any woman. There's just one other catch. He's a homosexual. He's a homosexual. Heir to his father's Mumbai business empire, Wade Mahara has money, looks, and status. So we've got this 38-year-old man. I believe he was like 38 years old. And he's like, you know, as I said, he's an heir to his father's empire. I almost said throne. He's an heir to his father's empire. He's a rich guy, you know, not one for anything. And his parents are like, when you get married? When you getting married, boy? When you gonna give us some grandbabies? This is one of those books where it's like, it kind of feels like a backhanded compliment when I say it like that. It's like you read this, you enjoy it, and you go. And that's fine. That is fine, because not all books have to be this grand standing like thesis, like dissertation, and like picking apart society type of thing. Sometimes you need something a little fun. But it also has a message behind it. Because you can find a message in anything. You can get a message out of anything. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? You might walk away from this video with a message. I might encourage you. Oh, put your hand up, say amen. Okay? So, this was a fun, I don't know, what was that? This was a fun, lighthearted read, but still had a message to it. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Adversity for Sale by Jay-Z Jenkins. You know him as Young Jay-Z. This talks about Young Jeezy's upcoming, his, what am I trying to say? What are the words I'm looking for? His experience. My God, I could not find that word. His experience in the music industry as a businessman, him making a life for himself and turning his life around and making something out of nothing. This is kind of like a memoir. He doesn't go like complete into his full life. He does talk about his childhood and his life itself, but it's mostly like his ins and outs, his doings in the music industry. They're vicious games. You know how in my last video I talked about DNFing and how people need to do it more. When you're not enjoying something, you don't have to do it. I DNF'd that book, but then I came back. I don't know. I truly don't know. I think I should have just stuck with my first mind and just DNF'd it and went about my business, because most times reading YA books don't work out for me. And for me, there's a difference between a book being YA and a book having main characters that are like teenagers. Because obviously I read An Ordinary Wonder where our main character was a teenager. But it's when we're dealing with the high school drama, when we're dealing with those type of issues in book form, it never really works for me. And that's not to slight the YA demographic, but it's just like, this doesn't work for me. And yeah, so I think that's why I should have just stuck with my first mind and just DNF'd and be like, yeah, just go about your business, because it ain't working. It ain't working, it ain't working, it ain't working. So I'm not going to give that a star rating, because like in my head, it was telling me, you're not going to enjoy this. But I will say, towards the end, I will say specifically like chapter 32 onward, I actually kind of enjoyed it. I was like, oh, wait, hold on, wait a minute. That kind of perked me up a little bit, but that's like, the book was almost over with. So The Road to Roswell started off so good. I was like, oh, wow, is this a 5-star read right here? Is this a 5-star read? I was in that thing. I was laughing. I was invested. I was here. And then we got like halfway through the book and it just started falling apart for me. It's about this woman who is on her way to New Mexico to be a bridesmaid in her best friend's wedding, right? She gets kidnapped, abducted, I guess you should say, by an alien once she arrives in town to attend this wedding. Pretty much on a road trip with this alien, as this alien has her going to whatever destination that the alien is trying to get to. And it becomes this whole thing, right? And it was the characters that were being introduced, the humor, it was like over the top, it was funny, I was enjoying it. But then we start going around and around and around and around. We were doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And it got to the point where it was no longer funny, it was just ridiculous. And it was a book about an alien abduction. Of course it's going to be ridiculous, Desmond. But it was like ridiculous to the point where it's like, this is dumb. Now, like, once again, there is a fine line for me. For me, I can't speak for you. I can't speak for nobody else. But for me, for thy, there's a fine line between ridiculous and dumb. Because, and basically, on the other side of that line is you done piss me off. Okay, it's no longer funny. It's no longer hilarious. It's no longer ha ha ha, chee hee hee, chuckle chuckle. It's now I need you to shut the hell up. Okay, so, and there's also like a romance story to it as well. Like the main character who's about to be a bridesmaid, and then another character comes in as supposed to be like a little romance between them. That wasn't even needed. That whole part was dumb. That whole part, I was like, why was this even put in this book? Why was this put in this book? The Apology. The Apology is about, this woman is 105 years old. 105. Basically, this 105-year-old woman goes to America to fix her family. Once she's there, she dies. But, hold on, that's not a spoiler. Because it then becomes like this afterlife type of thing where she's in the afterlife, but she's still working to save her family. So it's like half ghost story, half literary fiction sort of thing. And I almost DNF'd this too, because at the beginning, the writing, I don't know what was happening at the beginning, but it was like, it was wonky is the best way I can put this. Like, it was very rocky. I was like, what's going on? It was like we were going too fast, we were going too slow. It was like, what's happening here? I feel like we're all over the place, but we're nowhere at the same time, if that makes sense. But then it kind of got into a flow, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm enjoying this. I like this. I see what's happening here. I'm picking up what you're putting down. And then it lost me again towards the end, and I was just like, I don't know. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle with that one. That's like a 3.5. B-Boy Blues. B-Boy Blues. I actually read this book. It was supposed to be like a part of another like themed video I had, but that didn't happen. It might still happen. But either way, I read B-Boy Blues. It was released in the 90s. That book was published in the 90s. Let's just preface my review with that, okay? The book was published in the 90s, so I went into this knowing that there are going to be some things that just don't sit right with you, Desmond. There are going to be some things that don't sit right with you. Mitchell is our main character, and he meets this guy named Raheem, right? Mitchell has like this obsession with like dating like hyper masculine, like thuggish ruggish bone, like, yo, I'm hard, bro, I'm hard, you know what I'm saying? Good. Yeah, you already know what I'm talking about, bro. I ain't with that bullshit, bro. That's the type of guys he like, right? He like them type of dudes. So we're dealing with this whole toxic masculinity and heteronormative like roles that we're trying to place on these people in homosexual relationships. And we're also dealing with like, just being black, being gay in the 90s. I will say my favorite thing about this book, was just hearing the lingo, hearing the slang that was created by black queer people, hearing it used and hearing it used correctly. What a time it must have been to be alive and to be a teenager or an adult before the world took that and just watered it down, and just like it became so overused. Every video you see, every social media post you see, every ad you get in your inbox from a company that probably don't even have a black queer person working in the office, but they're using that lingo in their title of the email or the ad or whatever. That was one of my favorite things about it, and just hearing it be used and hearing it be used correctly. Other than that, like, the relationship between these two main characters, it was a mess. It was a mess. On one hand, you know, it's sweet. You see the love. Like, there definitely is chemistry and there's love between these two characters on the page. But like the foundation of it, I would have never touched Raheem with a 10-foot pole. I'm sorry. It's just no. Those two people should not have been together. Those two people have not have been together. Mitchell needs to go to therapy and talk about why he is seeking out these hyper masculine guys and what he's looking for in that. Raheem needs to go to therapy and he needs to talk about his issues and his anger issues, why he's still in the closet. Like, I know, like I said, come out at your own time and all that, but him being in the closet also affects his relationship with Mitchell because of other things he's doing. If you're going to be in the closet, you're going to stay there and you have not come to terms with who you are as a person, totally fine. But what you don't do is put those issues onto other people. You know what I'm saying? Decent People. This book is about our main character named Miss Josephine. What's his woman's name? Miss Josephine Wright. She just moved from New York City back to her hometown of West Mills, North Carolina. And it's 1976, okay? Her fiance has been accused of killing his 3 half-siblings, but he like, I didn't do it. I ain't do it, I ain't do it, I ain't do it. And Josephine, who they call Joe, is like, I'm finna figure out what's going on because the whole town done turned against my man and he ain't did it. The police done released him from custody because they don't got no proof, but y'all still accusing him and treating him like an outcast. What I did not expect was to flip from Joe to other people's point of views. So that kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, I'm not feeling this. Because the book was its strongest when we were hearing from Joe. One of our main characters, Savannah, who we stayed with a little bit too long, I was like, can we wrap her up and get back to Joe? She is a white woman who was disowned by her father because she married a black man. And then she left because like her daddy was like, you know what, you ain't no daughter of mine. You ain't no daughter of mine. So she left town with this man. They got married, had 2 kids, and she comes back to her hometown with her 2 boys. What she doesn't realize is, yet you are married to a black man, yes you have 2 biracial children, and you say you're all for civil rights, but you still lean into your white privilege. You still have unchecked biases, and at your core, you are just like your father and your grandmother, who are 2 racist sons of bitches. And you need to look into that. We have Limp, who's Joe's fiance, who, yeah, you say you didn't kill your siblings. Yeah, you say you still a good man, but you have unchecked homophobic tendencies, unchecked sexist tendencies. You need to look into that. So the book is very aptly titled Decent People because most people think they are good people, but then what are we not looking at? Are we looking in the mirror at the full scope and bringing everything to the forefront? And it took me a little bit to actually get that. I was like, oh wow, I see what it's doing now. And I actually kind of prefer that when I'm reading a book where it's like, oh, I see what you were doing now. At first, I was just kind of like, yeah, you pissing me off. Why are we with these other characters? Why are we not sticking with Joe? Da 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 da. And then once I finished it, I was like, I get it now. I see now. Sometimes I get that much earlier. Sometimes it takes me a little minute, okay? Sometimes it takes me a little second to pick it up. But I would give this book 4 stars. It's labeled a mystery or thriller. It's just not. It's just 3 people died and we don't know who did it until the end. So it's kind of like a whodunit. But this is very much literary fiction with some dead people who we don't know who did it until the end. So this is not a mystery. This is not a thriller. Do not go into this expecting that. If you see that label on any of the reviews, any of the apps, any bookstore that you about to buy it from, it's not. Okay, and that is it. Those are all the books that I read in the month of August. I had a lot of 4 and 5-star reads, a lot of 4-star reads mostly, but thoroughly enjoyed my reading in the month of August. I hope September is just as good because things have turned around. In the comment section of this video, let me know what you read. How was your August? Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are not. I will see you in my next one. Thank you for watching. Bye.